Here.
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 Okay, thank you. First up for the workshop is Jason Lambert. We've got the finance report, and take it away.
Good morning. As many of you have already noticed, we had a change in terms of the financials, the format. We changed the format to be more of a gap-oriented breakout, and we felt that having more information in less pages was probably more advantageous for the community, and hopefully everyone has seen and appreciates the way we have changed to be more transparent in terms of the information. I'll briefly run through them, and that way we're all on the same page in terms of the format changes. On the first page, or the balance sheet, we've broken out the POA and amenities, and we have put it into a we felt that previously the condensed version was not enough information, so we actually broke out more information in terms of the assets, liabilities. Behind that is the income statement for POA and amenities, and then following that is our wastewater or sewer. We have a new balance sheet and the income statement for the sewer. Beyond that, we have the income statement for the sewage department, as well as the information for the variance report for the budget. And then we also have a cash flow statement for the budget, and which gives us the net income figures for each department, for each division. And then this is a work in progress, as I was speaking to earlier, and if the community or the board feels that more information needs to be added, we can certainly add more sheets in or take out. So it may not be the same thing next month, but it certainly is a work in process, and hopefully we feel that the change is much better, and hopefully the community feels the same way. I'm going to briefly run through the financials. So for POA and amenities, the overall revenue for January is behind budget by $24,000. Assessment revenue was slightly higher, but our amenity revenue fell by approximately $30,000. Food and beverage makes up about 30% of that shortfall at $7,000, and golf experienced lighter than normal play. This is weather related. In conditions, we feel that conditions will improve, and so should our amenity revenue. For our cost of goods sold, for January, we're slightly better than budget with a variance of $6,000. It was anticipated that COGS would be approximately $78,000 for the month, and actual COGS, or cost of goods sold, were $72,000. Golf operations are higher than budget by $1,000, and food and beverage are below by approximately $5,000. Also for POA and amenities, operating expenses including payroll, we had considerable savings in the general expenses to include payroll. Payroll for the month was $930,000 against our estimate of $948,000, which is a savings. Repairs and maintenance were below budget by $115,000, which we think is also explained by timing of invoices. Overall, we are below budget by $85,000 for the month of January. Net income for POA and amenities were ahead of schedule by $61,000, with the savings listed above and continued efforts to reduce expenses, while simultaneously raising revenue. We are anticipating falling right in line with 2025 expectations or budget. Wastewater treatment, overall revenue, top line revenue for sewer came in below guidelines by approximately $24,000. The biggest variance was tap fees, which was off by $12,000. Operating expenses, including payroll, we had large variances for materials and supplies and repairs. Total in this area of general expenses was a positive $26,000 for January 2025. Net income for wastewater treatment or sewer, the net income for sewer was in line with budget expectations for 2025. January actuals, sewer reported $36,000 against a budget of $34,000. So any questions, I'll stick around after the meeting, or you can email me at any time and I can give further explanation. Thank you.
Hold on, we got a couple questions. Go on ahead, Tom.
Tom Ratcliffe. First, Jason, thank you so much for the change. I know it's going to take some getting used to by all of us as we go through this, but I think it's a step in the right direction. If I can just share a quick minute on that new format and what, for me, was very helpful. When I looked at your POA statement of revenue and expenses, the way it's broken out now versus in the past, I can now look at the revenue, compare it against last year's. I can look at the expenses by department. And the big help for me, quite honestly, and where I feel this report is adding transparency, is I could go down here and start listing some things that cause me to ask questions. For example, expenses for golf, $112,000 difference from last year on that report. Just a quick example. But then the additional detail, which again, I thank you for providing that, which is at the very end of the report by department. I could then start getting some explanations as to what was going on. So it helped me tie my question in my mind on the numbers and then look for some of the answers. So I don't have to look up here, and I know I'm getting the same information that the board's getting. So again, I thank you for that.
Okay. Any other questions on the financials? All right. Major capital projects. Bruce?
Good morning. The Druid Hills Golf Course Clubhouse, new clubhouse. The only thing to report now is that we're reviewing the final edits on the pre-construction services contract as well as the construction services contract with J&G, and as soon as those are have been reviewed, they'll be presented to the board for approval. We're just slightly behind schedule on that project, but we should be able to make up that time provided we can get this contract signed. So that's really all that we have to report on that particular project.
Okay.
Any questions?
Go on ahead. Got a question?
So my question is, as you're going through this final review, and I understand we now have somebody accountable for it, quote, managing the project and the cost and so forth, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we found in the past that outside oversight committee and so forth of experts, people that were familiar, that could review this stuff in the numbers and kind of ask those strategic questions that maybe members of the board are not, don't have the experience in asking, was beneficial. Is that still happening, or is this completely in-house operations as far as this contract preparation?
Well, I'll go ahead and answer that one. We are in the process of signing an agreement with a company called J&G, which will be our construction manager kind of people. So no, we're not relying on just outside or inside people. On the day-to-day stuff, our inside people will interact with them. Matter of fact, we just spent a day and a half with them and also ourselves talking about all this earlier this week. So Tom, your question is really truly that we will have an outside contractor that's I call them internal engineers. They will be looking at all of our costs. They will be tracking all of the projects. They've been in contact with all the people that are likely to bid on this, so we're starting to get ideas about what that all is going to cost. So yes, there's going to be a whole separate contract for that.
So can I add to that? I think, Tom, you were talking about the Major Capital Projects Committee and the role they used to play. So what we've done is gone to a steering committee approach, and we look for representation on that project of multiple types of experience. And one of them is construction or engineering background. So some of those folks that were on the PC are on these now steering committees. So for the fire department, I have a member of the former MCPC, and the steering committee, or the Druid Hills project has one as well. So the concept of having members that are a part of the steering committee with that background, we're going to continue that forward, but just in a different format.
I would add one other thing, too. If you recall, we instituted under Bruce's responsibility a project management group. That group will be the day-to-day interfaces with with what I call our independent engineer that will be working on this throughout the project. So unlike in the past where we've had people kind of come in and out, we actually have people assigned on this on a day-to-day basis.
Just one more note, Tom. We still have the original architect who
Yeah.
specializes in the design and construction of clubhouses such as this. And they're making recommendations and consulting with us on editing this contract to be favorable for Fairfield Glade, so.
Yeah, and again, I'll just mention that this is a huge project for us. It's got a lot of our money tied up. And so we're making extra sure that we know where we are really just literally almost every day. Okay? All right. Member comments?
Just a couple of things. We've had the conversation before, so I'm gonna again make the request. On our website, there is a calendar. It's under the admin tab, if you all go back and look. It's supposed to, I guess, show the meetings. It has 2 items on it: the workshop meeting and the board meeting. That's it. Now, we have numerous other committee meetings that should be listed under there. So it's a reference point. Again, I don't know what's hard about it, but I'm asking again. We have all of the committees, when they're meeting, all that stuff on the calendar.
Okay.
Please. Can I just make this time bound then? By when? Because I've asked it before.
Well, we got a couple other things going on here that's board stuff, but I'll promise you, Tom, we'll get you a date, but I'm going to have to talk to some people to find out when that's going to be. Okay?
Second point is, and because the comments are now versus after we hear about it, we're going to be listening to the strategic plan next steps with Bill coming up. So I'm curious, and maybe you can give us an explanation now from a board perspective, not from Bill's. We're bringing an outside consultant in, so to speak, to help us with this again. And I appreciate Bill doing it, so don't get me wrong, and I appreciate it being done. What I'm trying to understand, last month the question was asked, Scott, you talked about all the things that were going on that strategic planning team was doing. And now we're going to get somebody else. This isn't rocket science, and it's been going on for I don't know how long. And we're going to now our second quote-unquote consultant. Does that mean that, for example, in another month, we're going to see the resignation of the whole strategic planning team again?
Tom, if I may interrupt you, Bill's going to cover this extensively, and it isn't redoing what we just came out with 6 months ago. It's actually taking that, as well as prior strategic plans, as well as community feedback over the last year about strategic planning.
Talking to the mic.
Okay. Bill's going to address this completely. That's the first part of his presentation, is to talk about, this does not say we're doing a new strategic planning.
That mic is on.
It is on, Nico.
It
I
is
can
on.
hear.
You just got to get real close to it, Monica.
All right. There we go. Bill Booth is going to address all of this. His first several slides are about this. And it's not a new strategic planning. It's taking what we have from the last strategic planning group, and they are representative in this session coming up. And you'll see the list of who all's represented. And then we're also going to look back to prior strategic planning and say, what were the initiatives then that were felt as necessary? And all these things are going to be put on a board and discussed with the team that you'll hear about there. So this is not starting over. This is taking the output of the last strategic planning session and, in fact, getting it to actionable items for action plans.
Tom, it's consistent with what I've been reporting now for a couple of months, that we need to take this large strategic plan, break it down in initiatives, and establish a roadmap. Bill was kind enough to volunteer his expertise to help lead this workshop. So it's consistent with the message we were talking about. It's just simply that Bill's available, he's in the community, and he's volunteered his time to help us take that next step.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate the texture behind it, not just Bill coming up, but hearing the board perspective. I think that's helpful. Thank you. My last point is, so I expected to hear this last month, and I didn't, and I was looking for it on the agenda, so I'll bring it up today. I had hoped that there would be something from the board that would tell us what their goals are for this year. Something that would be very specific on their goals, so that at the end of the year, we can look at their goals and hold them accountable for how the actions they took and how, at the end of the year, the results matched their goals. We haven't seen anything at all in their goals. We have all kinds of things going on, but no board goals.
Well,
Will we see something?
I will address that.
Thank you.
We have talked about the goals and the priorities at least 2 meetings. We'll be talking about it again this afternoon. We, as a part of the strategic planning piece, owe that to the team that's getting together on March 10th, 11th, and 12th. If they don't have our perspective of where we would like to go and the priorities that we have, then we're going to get a mismatch of where they're going and where we're going. So that work should be finished this afternoon. We've had several drafts, and I think I got the complete one now. So that's the part we're taking on this afternoon. We'll be talking about that, and if the priorities are all agreed to, then we'll be sending that out to the strategic planning group getting together, and also we'll be talking about it in here. Okay? So, all right, any other member comments? You can go either one, your choice.
So, good morning. I know y'all know who I am, but I'm Polly Dykstra. First of all, I wanted to ask, I was here last month and I asked about, was there any updates on the possible lessees for the stables? And I know Bill Ward was out, but is there any further information? I don't know if he's been back or what.
Well, I can tell you, I've sat in on 4 meetings since the last board meeting. We met with 3 potential operators. We met with one of those people twice. We've gotten some business plans in. That's all going to be under discussion this afternoon because the whole board hasn't seen all that. And we are going to be talking about that this afternoon. So no, it's not. We've been moving on along, but we've had a lot of interference, if you will, between the last meeting and this meeting. We've had snow. A couple of meetings had to get canceled because people couldn't get here or we couldn't get there. So yes, we're still in the conversation with those people.
Okay, well, if I can speak
Yeah.
from my heart.
Sure.
But I also can use my head. And speaking from my heart, I know I'm still speaking for a lot of people because I know that you all know the outcry from this community about this decision that just this amount of people made about closing the stables. So, and maybe it's a moot point because you say it's still moving on, but that stables was a lot to a lot of people. And, you all made that decision on very false information as far as the financials were concerned. And the Stables Committee was asked to fill in the blanks on much of that list. And they took that task seriously, and a bunch of very knowledgeable people put those figures down on paper. And those figures were changed when they were given to the board. So I really would like to ask that the board seriously would consider, and it appears you are maybe seriously considering reopening that stables, but the committee that was formed would be glad to provide you with the figures that we came up with. You know, and we were all a bunch of knowledgeable people. We knew what we were doing. We knew where to go to get those correct figures, and we'd love to present them to you in the case that you decide to reopen the stables, because I think that you'll see a very different picture. The figures that we came up with were probably 20% of the total figure that you were given. So in my mind, that means that you made a decision based on very false information. So I'd love to have you reconsider it based on what we've come up with,
Okay.
if I could. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member comments? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and move into a couple people that we have here as speakers today. Tom, you're going to be up first. This is Tom Anderson. He's our declarant. So when you hear the word declarant, sometimes developer. Okay. We'll go on ahead. So go on ahead, Tom.
I didn't get to say hello. Let's see. Good morning.
I'll come back.
I feel like I should just open it up for questions. Is that a better way to do this? Well, it's nice to see everybody. I don't have a huge list of, can you hear me okay? Yeah, I don't have a huge list of things to talk about. I'm really proud of the Grove. I just want you guys to know I love the Grove. And my wife has spent, in the winter, she does all the bookings. So the small stage on Friday night and the big concerts on Saturday night she's been working on. And I think the schedule is pretty locked down for the year. So we're always happy and excited, and we come for some of the shows and blah, blah, blah. So it's really good. On the real estate stuff, it's kind of an interesting time, quite honestly, in the real estate stuff. The prices are holding. I think you guys are probably happy to hear that. There's been a lot of appreciation, a tremendous amount of appreciation since the start of COVID. This market is very much in balance. I think there's only 100 resale homes on the market. When I first bought the business, the average was 350. So, you know, the fact that there's a third of the houses that used to be on the market works favorably for price increases. So I think all of you that own homes here have probably seen good appreciation in your homes. We have built another road in the north called Maple Ridge that just finished. Well, we haven't put the paving down, but we're going to put the paving down as soon as the weather breaks. And we're going to start construction. I think we've got half a dozen new neighbors that have already signed up to build there. So those are higher end homes. And I know some of you live up in the north and some of you live in the south and live all over. I'm a firm believer that it takes a village, and you know, all of the development that's taking place right now at all the price points is helpful for the values of the whole community. We're still seeing a lot of people, you know, from the upper Midwest, which is our history, and California, which is sort of the new crowd. Arizona is starting to be a place that we're starting to see an interesting amount of people coming from as well. So we're closely marketing that. We just had our big annual show that we represent the community. We usually have it in Chicago, and this year they had it outside Philadelphia. So it was a very different crowd for us. the Chicago people are very knowledgeable about Tennessee, and they're very interested in the Glade, and they have friends down here, and blah, blah, blah. The people in Pennsylvania, they all want to retire in North Carolina or South Carolina. So we spent a lot of time introducing Tennessee and the Glade and our benefits to a lot of people that we wouldn't ordinarily get to see. So we won't know for a year how it went, but we got a lot of good leads out of it. In terms of pricing, you know, everything from asphalt to cable to PVC pipe to lumber for framing and concrete for foundations. There's a huge run-up in most of those prices during COVID. They've come down a tiny bit, but the good news is they've stabilized. So we have sort of, we're operating now at least in a range of certainty with people in terms of what we tell them we can do for them, or what we tell them we can build roads for, or what we tell them we can run natural gas or fiber. So that part of it has settled down. It's at a higher number than it used to be, but I think everybody's trying to get used to it, like the price of eggs. Other than that, I don't know that I have any news. I would just like to say that I'm really committed to working with the club and the county and Wyndham to try and solve a legacy problem of a lack of infrastructure development that runs through the community that has trapped a lot of lot owners from being able to develop their properties. And the absorption in the marketplace over the last 10 years is eating through a lot of the lot inventory that already has roads and water and sewer. So there hasn't been a huge need to go into, you know, what I call the grassy knolls and start executing more development. But the absorption of those better lots is happening every year, and there's getting to be fewer and fewer of them. So I think we're at an inflection point where it's going to be necessary for the future growth of the community to start taking a hard look at some new roads. So that's my story.
Would that be roads and bridges?
Up, please come up. Because we have people streaming, they can't hear you from back there.
So would roads and bridges be responsible for adding new roads, or the developer?
No, the developer. It's a very, there's probably very little I can tell you about where you live, but I can tell you that, you know, this guy 50 years ago came up with this idea, and he executed some of it, but not all of it. And so, I mean, he got 5 golf courses in here, and he got, you know, the stables in here, and he got, you know, a shopping mall in here, and he sold a lot of houses, and then he had a lot of lots, and they sold a lot of lots, and the absorption just didn't keep up with the sales, and it's created sort of this problem that we're trying to solve right now with the club and the county and Wyndham on a lot of lots. The documents, the overriding documents for the Glade, give the declarant the sole rights to developing the roads and the water extensions, and the club runs the sewer. So it's you know, it's a two-way street between us. So we need to work together on where it is we want to expand and why. But it would be my capital that would be going out, not the clubs, on everything but the sewer, which is how the community's been running since the agreement was modified in the mid-1980s.
Nico Sergio. We had a discussion last month with Ellen about your process of developing roads and getting properties all joined together. And she stated that because of the properties were platted back in the 80s, they're restricted from being condos or townhouses or that type of thing. You own several hundred acres of undeveloped land that hasn't been platted. So it could be open to condos and townhouses. So I was curious about that. Have you done research? Because I hear from people that they're saying, I have this big house, I can't afford to maintain it anymore, my spouse died, I've lost half my income, and I want to downsize to a condo or a townhouse. And people do look at Good Samaritan, but a number of people have said that's a little bit pricier than what they're comfortable with. So have you done any research? Are you thinking about taking some of your undeveloped land, because then you can plat it any way you can not put restrictions on it, to develop townhouses or condos or that type of thing? And if that is not in your building plans, would you be willing to do that and then find other developers that build townhouses or condos or things like that?
I would, and I have, and I'm thinking about it. So that's a great question. I appreciate it. It's a tricky place. I just want you to know that, because people hate stairs, right? So when you're looking at developing townhouses or condominiums, they're on a per square foot basis, they're more expensive than single family homes. And people want to have a mindset that they're less expensive. So they're like, oh my gosh, I got this big house, 3,000 square foot house, and it's worth, make it up, $600,000, and what I really need is a 2,000 square foot townhouse that's going to cost $400,000. But fortunately, the 2,000 square foot condo costs $600,000, and people kind of freak out when they realize that. The way to make it less expensive is to go up with it. Right? So if we could put a product in place that was a 2 or 3 story townhome with a master on the first floor, and then the second bedrooms and the office and whatnot up above it, we could get the price down. So I built one little spec house on Westchester with this in mind. Okay, I said, okay, I'm going to try it. All right, so I'll be the only one that puts a house on the market with a 1-car garage, and I added 50% depth to the bay so that there's storage in addition to the 1 car. A master on the first floor, and everything else upstairs. And it's still for sale if you want to buy it. So I'm with you that we need to evolve our product. I completely agree. I've just talked with Greg about it. I'm going to hopefully talk with the board at a broad level. But I do feel like some of the restrictions on development that were put in place in the 70s we should all kind of look at it and pull it forward and see, it made sense then, does it make sense now? So I am working with townhome developers in other areas that panelize them. So they would bring in an apartment or a townhouse on a truck and staple it together. We're just about to start a project with one of them, and I'm really fascinated to see how it comes out, because that could get the price point at a level that it would be effective here. But the stairs is really a challenge. I just have to tell you, and I'm getting older myself, right? So, and my knees aren't that great either. So I'm just trying to live with that restriction. But I will say, if you have to build a townhouse that looks like this versus a townhouse that looks like this, there's a big difference in the cost.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other questions for
Anybody
Tom?
else?
Tom, how much is that house on Westchester? I'm just curious.
Well, it might be the least expensive new house for sale in the market. I think it's 389. 389.
And square footage is?
1,300 and 1450. My guy's here, so 1450.
I said the Kyle.
And so, okay, I mean, I don't know. I'll just say this. I'm a fan of the Glade to the point where I say to myself, people want a weekend here. You know, not, they live here, yes, and weekend here for all the amenities. So I designed this product thinking that we would attract people from Knoxville or Nashville who want to be members of the golf or the pools or the community or the stables or anything. And stairs may be less of an issue, right? So, you know, this product would be right for a weekender. To your question about changing the product type, there's the rentals stuff too might be something that we looked at, because I think there's relative restrictions on rental terms, and that has changed a lot over 50 years in how people use their houses as investment vehicles. And so that might be something that we talk about as well. But did I answer the question? Did I answer your question? Yeah.
Anything else? Go ahead. Just come on up here so everybody can hear you.
I will say, somebody, one of the builders, took our design and is building it in the area that I don't develop in, the legacy area where the workforce was originally living. I forget the name of that area. Wilshire.
Wilshire,
Yeah.
yeah.
So somebody is trying to use that for workforce housing.
Mr. Anderson, can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Thank you.
Is that your matrix joke?
Is this
Let's not
better?
get that matrix.
Is that
That's better.
Okay. That should be better. Thank you for everything you're doing for Fairfield Glade, number one.
welcome.
I just have a couple of comments. It's really not questions, but your bungalow that you built on Westchester, beautiful home. We've looked at it multiple times, not to buy it, just because we're curious.
Right.
Whenever we drive around, we stop.
And I love
we-
bungalows, and I love front porches, and I love all that
Where
stuff.
you
know, so
put
I
it,
was like, huh?
you put it right on a
I know,
platted
well, we're
road.
using it as a sales center.
The
so
first
we
time I
want to-
pulled in, I go, well, there's going to be a subdivision here someday, and guess what? If we buy this, we're going to be right on the corner where
Yeah.
the cement trucks are going through. So, bad location. Number two, you
Well,
hit
it's
the...
good for sales. I'm just
Well-
telling you, we have a lot of people, how many times you've been in now, you know right where it is.
You know where that
Every time
gravel,
drive
you know
by,
where that
stop
gravel
and
road
look
is?
at it.
Put some
So
topsoil
it's
down
a
and throw
trade,
some
it's a
weeds
trade.
on top of it, and people might, you know,
Yeah.
that was a turnoff as soon as I saw that.
right.
Number two, we're all old people. You guys are all volunteers. We don't like stairs.
I know.
Stairs will kill you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know.
You fall downstairs, you break a hip, you get pneumonia, and you're dead. Bing.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So don't be. If you build multiple level townhomes like we see out east in Baltimore and stuff like that,
Yeah, they're not going to sell.
they're not going to sell. You're going to blow your money. So
I know.
don't
Thank
do
you,
that.
thank you.
Don't
I
do
know,
that.
I know.
All right.
I know, but there is, okay, so I'll say it this way. So my solution for that was to build the bungalow, because it is a townhouse, really. You got a first floor master, you're a widower, you're one-car garage, and if your family comes or your friends come, hopefully they're able to go upstairs. You know, so that was developed on a small lot, right?
Yep.
At a price point that is cheaper than what we could do, you know, a connected townhome project with all of the parking and paving and landscaping and connectivity and soundproof walls and all the things that would have to go into attaching it. So I've had I mean, I don't want to say, I think if the sales guys were here, they say they've had maybe 1,000 people through the house, and a lot of people are very interested in it. And you're right, we put it there so people would see it. But I haven't sold one to somebody that says, I want this, put it over here. which is what I thought would happen. And I thought we would have sold 10 or 12 of them, and they'd be on a quiet street. They'd be on a cul-de-sac somewhere. They'd be somewhere that somebody that was downsizing, would want to be. So the fact that the sales model didn't sell, I'm okay with. I'm just really shocked I didn't sell any more of the product type.
The type of townhomes, I think that'll sell it. We live in Heatherhurst Townhomes, which is right off of Forest Hill, up Stonehenge. They're co-joined. It's one building, 2 units. Everything is a ranch. I've been on the board there for 10 years, so I know exactly what all you guys go through, because I get it all, but only at a smaller scale. And are you familiar with some of the other townhomes here in Fairfield Glade that are built? There's a ton of them with that type of style. You have a building, 2 townhomes, although I'm not sure what you save in money by the co-joined wall, because the wall has to be a very good wall, and those aren't cheap to build. With the fire stop in it, the walls don't touch, and by the time you get done, the only thing you saved was siding.
Do you have a golf course view? Or some of them
Some of them have
a golf course
views.
or a water view, some of the ones, and that's where they can get the increased value.
Yep.
So they can cover the increased cost, right? So that's why the product can make sense based on where
But
it's.
the point also is, are your realtors, you're in charge of, well, I don't know if you own or not, Fairfield Glade Homes?
I do.
Okay. So the realtors that are there, like at the bungalow, are they giving you feedback that they get from other people?
Every week.
Okay, good. All right. That's all I have.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, I'm trying. I want you to know I'm trying. I'm trying to address this problem of, I don't want to say widowers. I'm just saying, people who want to downsize and have been in the community a long time, and they don't want to move, and they don't want to maintain a big house, and they want to put some money in their pocket when they exit the big house.
But
and
I think
the answer to that in my mind is maybe a townhome. I'll let you know when I get better with these factory guys who are doing it. But for stick built around here using our local subs, it's a product like the bungalow that is the best that we could come up with.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, I will put in a little advertisement for you, Tom. We've had a lot of tough discussions, but I can honestly say, and this is important for the membership to understand, every time we've been in a discussion, I can honestly say that, Tom, you've always thought about what's best for Fairfield Glade. And I, for one, really appreciate that, because it makes the working relationship much, much, much better. I would also say, for those of you that have taken a trip through our CNRs, this is the way it was set up. It was set up truly as a partnership between the declarant and the club. And I think that that's really what we're trying to do. And I've been very appreciative of the time that you've given, Tom, to talk about things. The agreement we signed at the end of last year, I think, is a huge step forward. We'll be looking at some other things along those lines in the next couple of months. But I really thank you for coming in today and talking to the membership here. And
I'm a big fan.
Glad to work with you.
I love it here. So, yeah, thank you. And
Okay.
to you as well. The board's been great. Everybody's great. Abby at the Grove is great. I just want to say that. So put that on the record. All right.
All right, before we get to Bill, what we're going to do is do the lot sales. I skipped over that one. So Bruce, go on ahead.
So the January itself for lot sales, it was a slow month. We had 1 sale and 4 lot mergers. But the numbers compared to the incremental change from in January, we had things like 10 additional, or actually 11 changes from construction onto a residence. So some of these things change definitions, and some of the numbers change because you get a number a week later and it's 2 or 3 differences. So we have a number of homes under construction in January. Those will change over as we go along. So in the package, you can see all those gross numbers. But for lot sales itself, it was a slow month, and we took 0 lots back.
Okay. Is there a question? Go on ahead.
For reference, Bruce, you're talking about the lot ownership breakdown in the packet, correct? Just a quick one on that report. So in trying to take and kind of put it together, what number tells the membership the amount of votes? And I know it doesn't specifically say votes, but when you start translating the data, there's one, I'm sure, a number here. You don't have to give me the answer today, tomorrow's fine, but is there a number on the page that could translate to votes? Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not going to try and answer it today because it'll change tomorrow. I mean, seriously, when we pull a lot back, it changes. It comes back to us. So that property owner doesn't have that vote. When there is a merger, there is a change in the number of votes. It's the property owner.
So Bruce, balance sheet is the same way. It's a snapshot of time. All I'm asking for is based on this snapshot.
Well,
Yeah.
well, if you go to the middle column, Tom, okay? Fairfield Glade Homes, Land Tennessee LLC, that's Tom. He's got 13 lots. If you go down a little bit to Good Samaritan, they've got 78 lots. Those are all votable lots.
Right.
You get down to general property owners, all of those are votable lots. The Wyndham Resorts, these are the lots they own, not the timeshares. And those are all the lots that are voted. So you got about 12,180 as of this report. That's what we have in terms of votes. And as Bruce says, they change. But they don't change radically unless somebody would buy a whole big set of lots or something like that. But that's the number you're looking for, I think.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Hearing no more questions or member comments, Bill? I didn't see him here.
Yeah, I sent him a note. He's on schedule for 10. Do we have anything else?
No, he's next
I'll go
up.
call him. Make sure he gets the message.
All right, so let's take about a 5-minute break, and we'll see where Bill is, and then we'll get after this, okay? Thank you all. And for those of you that are wondering what Bill is doing, he's going to give you the same presentation that he's given the board, and he's given the SMTs and Bill about what's going to happen at the March 10th through 12th workshop. Okay?
Hello, everyone, and everyone who's viewing this online. I appreciate all your interest and the comments and feedback you've given us over the last several months since the last strategic plan meeting was held. And I want to introduce to you Bill Booth. I know many of you know him. Been a resident for 7 years, 8 years?
8 years.
8 years, he and his lovely wife. And he was actively involved, in fact, was the co-chair of the Strategic Planning Committee in 18 through 21 or 22, and put some great work into it. He's been involved all along with the committee and talking to them and providing feedback. And even more importantly, he did this as a business. So you're going to hear a little bit about his business. He certainly has the qualifications for taking us to the next step. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Monica, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. And you want to tee this thing up here? All right, and let's just, okay, looks great. All right. So I'm going to walk around a little bit here, so let me get this thing off. All right. And come over here. And you guys, can you actually see this? You're so close to it. All right. Oh, it's over here too. Oh, okay, great. All right. Oh, all right, perfect. All right, well, I'm going to hang out right here, so hope everybody can see what we're doing. So thanks for coming this morning. I'm Bill Booth, and as Monica mentioned, I've been involved in some strategy here for a number of years as a volunteer on the Strategic Planning Committee and on the Election Committee. It's great to be able to give back to the community as a volunteer. What we're going to talk about this morning is I'm going to talk a little about myself and my qualifications. I think it's important for you guys to know who I am and what I've done in the past. We're going to go through in some detail the planning methodology that we're going to use, which is very different from what has happened up to this point. I'll explain why that is and where that came from, and then how you as the members will be kept informed every step of the way. One of the things that's a strong part of the methodology that we use is that you're involved. You're going to be able to monitor what's going on throughout the whole process. A little bit about that. So I do want to make a note that I'm doing this as a volunteer. There's no cost to the community. I've done a lot of volunteer work. Many of you have too. It's a pleasure to be able to do that, just so there's no confusion about whether there's a fee involved. There isn't. So we're going to talk about fast-track strategic planning, and this is a process that's been used with many communities throughout the United States for community associations, resorts, and private clubs. And Fairfield Glade is all of this. Fairfield Glade is a community association. We do have resort amenities here. And we're not a private club or a semi-private club. So we have members, you guys are members, and you pay assessments for that, but we also have the timeshare guests, and we have golf groups, and we have the public coming here, so it's a semi-private club. And so I've got experience in all of those types of venues, so this is not anything new for me. My experience, been doing this for about 35 years in strategic planning. You can see group facilitation, focus groups, opinion surveys. The main thing I think that separates me in the industry is the experience I have in hospitality, with associations particularly. Yes, sir?
Can we get a copy of these slides later?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So it's industry-specific experience that I have. I'm not a generalist strategic planner. I've done general strategic planning, but specifically for community associations. So the way Fairfield Glade is structured, the way it operates, I'm very familiar with that. And I've also worked with resorts and private clubs. A little bit about my background. I was a director and partner with RSM US. It's the 5th largest public accounting and consulting firm in the United States. I was with them for 25 years. Director of their club community association consulting services. Had my own firm for 15 years. Just retired, finally, after being here almost 9 years. I retired from that. I did originate this fast-track approach in 2007. And my education in Virginia and Loyola, and I'm currently an adjunct professor at MTSU in their hospitality department. So I go over there once a week to teach a couple classes in Murfreesboro. I'll be over there tomorrow with a class. That's a little bit about me. Fast track projects. Here's a short list of different communities that I've worked on. Not in front of anybody here, I hope. different communities that we've worked with over the years. You'll recognize some of these names. I tried to pick a variety of different kinds of communities. Ocean Reef, the largest gated community in the United States, that's completely private. Of course, there's other communities that are like the Villages and whatever, but they're not a private community. I think we actually have some members here that lived in Timber Pines and were there when we did the project there. Lake Wavira in Kansas City and various other places. So different kinds of communities, some built around golf, some built around, Lake Wavira is built around a lake. And then, of course, Ocean Reef is this huge place. So a lot of experience with this approach that I'm going to present to you. Along the way, I've done about 400 projects on technology strategic planning with community associations, resorts, clubs, semi-private clubs like us, and hotels. So a lot of planning over the years. This is, my 450th one or something like that. Quick overview of the fast-track strategic planning process. I'm going to talk with you guys about how it was developed, or why it was developed, what it is, and how it works. So let's start with the challenge that all communities have in trying to have any kind of strategy going on. One of the main challenges is gaining consensus on key issues. What are the issues that are really important to the members here at Fairfield Glade? And what are their priorities? You know, if there's 100 things we need to do, what are the first 10 that we're going to do? We're not going to do 100 things at once. So gaining consensus is a challenge in any engagement that we're in. Formulating a precise plan of action. You know, it's nice to have a list of, you might get a better picture over here. Yeah. Oh, you want me in the picture? No, he's good. He's going to get me here. Yeah, I'll do my thing. All right. Getting a precise plan. You know, it's nice to have ideas. It's nice to have wish lists. It's nice to have focus groups and have surveys and all that kind of information. What are we going to do with that? What's the plan? How is this going to take place? What's it going to cost? What's the impact on our dues and our assessment? It didn't like me. All right, here we go. So we want to formulate a precise plan, and turn that down a little bit if you would. Get a little feedback. And then the main challenge is staying on focus. You know, you can have all the plans you want. If you don't stay on focus and you don't get it done, then you've wasted your time. And if you've spent money doing that, you've wasted your money on that. The fast track process is designed to address all of these. Okay, and now this isn't working, so technology is not cooperating here. There we go. I think. No, that's something else. All right, here we go. Okay, so we got the mic and we got the thing. So why something different was needed? Let me tell you a little story about how this came about. So here I am working at RSM back in 2000, early 2000s. And we have hundreds of clients that are, RSM is a CPA and consulting firm. So we're doing audits and tax work and we're doing all kinds of consulting. And we keep hearing complaints from these clients about, hey, we've spent all this money and all this time on strategic planning, nothing's happening. We're not getting anything done. Nothing has changed. And we kept hearing this saying, you know, this is an opportunity. We should expand our strategic planning services to cover this. And so we did. And what we saw was disenchantment with what we'll call traditional comprehensive planning approaches. They take too long, they're too expensive, and this key thing right here, they're not executed. We got this plan, we got a report, big thick report, sitting on the shelf, nothing happening. So we're unable to perpetuate the vision and mission into the future of what we're trying to accomplish here. So we had, hey, this is an opportunity, let's put something together. So we did. We put together fast track strategic planning. It happens quickly, it happens in weeks, not years. The typical project with one of our clients is 90 to 120 days, and we've got the plans done and they're off and running, as opposed to years, okay? It focuses on results. In my consulting career, I get paid for results. I don't get paid for reports. I don't get paid for ideas, well, some ideas, mostly results. So there's not going to be any thick report, but there will be some reporting that you will receive and you will see. We establish the goals and strategies that drive capital planning. A lot of strategy that's done doesn't have any dollars associated with it. Oh, we should do this, and this would be neat to do, and we do that. What is that going to cost? How are we going to pay for it? How long is it going to take? Where's this money going to come from? It's low cost, very low cost here. It's no cost. But usually it's about a quarter of the cost of a comprehensive approach because we don't spend years working on it. And in red, it actually gets executed. This is the whole point of fast-track strategic planning is we're going to execute on the plans that are put together. And you all, as members, and those of you at home watching this, will be able to monitor what's going on a continuous basis. All right. So the basic methodology of fast-track is first we gather information. Now, we're not doing this here because we have more information than you can shake a stick at here. We don't need any more member surveys or focus groups, staff input, board management. We got all the information anybody could possibly want. If all of that hadn't been done and we were called in to do this project, we'd have to do all of that. We don't have to do any of that. We've got I don't use this word very often, a plethora of information that takes care of us. So step one is already done. From that, we'll determine the goals and issues of the community. We'll prioritize those goals and issues. We'll create action plans, and we'll talk specifically about how action plans work, and keep a continuous focus on completing the action plans, getting things done. This is the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish here. So let's talk about the actual 10 steps. Sorry to have my back to you guys, but
we heard it. Yeah.
okay. Let's talk about the 10 steps here in the process, and it's been customized for Fairfield Glade because that information piece is already done. What's the information that we're reviewing right now? We're reviewing the 2024 strategic plan. It was put together by the planning committee. The senior management team had a meeting, and they have strategic priorities that they've put together. We're looking at that. The consultant PCA has a report. We're looking at that. We've got member surveys. We have planning work that was done by previous strategic planning groups, including Monica and I were involved in that some years ago. And your core values list, which is up here, okay, to make sure that we're fully aware and familiar with all of this information before we get started. So I'm in that process right now, going through all of that. Once I've gone through that, and I am the facilitator in this process, I'm going to produce what's called a master list of issues. Picture, we probably won't be in this room, but picture being in this room with literally flip chart paper up on the walls with 100 different things on them. Everything that anybody has put forward, any idea, any strategy, any issue, any problem that needs to be addressed, all surrounding us here, okay? So I put that list together because that's going to be addressed by the planning team. It's all of the needs, wants, and aspirations from the information that I've gathered. And we have formed a planning team. The planning team is the general manager. The senior management team members, all of the department heads are involved in this. 2 members of the current strategic planning committee, and 2 current board members. The 2 core board members are going to be Scott and Monica. This is going to be the planning team to take all this information and go through this process. All right, so what are we going to do with these guys? On March 10, 11, and 12, I'm going to facilitate a planning workshop, include all of those members. They'll be here at the center, and you'll see them stagger out for lunch because we're going to work them pretty hard for those 3 days. And that's the team who will do the planning workshop. What's going to happen during that? Okay, first of all, they're going to review that master's issues list. So imagine they're walking into this room and the stuff's all over here. We're going to work on that, and they're going to add, subtract, and modify that list and prioritize the list. This step, how long do you think this takes? I mean, we got a 3-day workshop. How much time is it going to take to get these things prioritized? Take a guess. Somebody tell me.
30 hours.
30 hours. An hour. Okay. All day the first day. 30's a little long, 1 hour is a little bit short. Typically, the whole first day is just figuring out what the priorities are, because you saw that list of people. There's going to be different opinions there on what's most important, what's less important, what do we do first, second, third, and fourth, those kinds of things. So the first day is typically, give or take a little bit of time, but usually the first day is prioritizing the list. Okay? And they're using the survey information from the members, the core values, the focus groups, all that information.
You're going to tell the members to bring their sleeping bags?
Well, we'll let them go at midnight. They don't have to stay over. But it's a long but very productive. So they're going to prioritize a list. And then the next 2 days are spent working on key issues. So typically what we're looking is, by the way, prioritize means that you either get a high, medium, or a low rating on these issues. High, medium, or low, and it has to be a consensus rating. The group has to agree. It's not like, oh, we voted 6-5. It's got to be, the group says, hey, these are really the important things. We agree to this. Part of the reason that it takes a while to get there. We're going to have usually 8, 10, maybe 12 key issues that meet this criteria. This is a hard bar to get to. To be a key issue, it has to add the greatest overall value to the community. It can be addressed and resolved in the next 5 to 10 years. We're not going to be dealing with stuff from 20 years. I mean, that might be on the radar, but right now we're interested in the next 5 to 10 years. And it's aligned with the core values that are listed here. By the way, for those of you who might be new on the core values, this was done some time ago, and these percentage numbers here, this was done in a survey to the community. We had thousands of responses on this. And these percentages represent the percentage of respondents who agreed that this was a core value. Okay, these are very high, 97, 92, 92, 98, 98. We have good consensus here in this community as to what's important to you guys, all right? So that's going to be a driving force here, is we're always going to be looking at these core values and making sure that whatever is going on is aligned with those core values. So again, generates the greatest overall value to the entire community, addressed in the next 5 to 10 years, aligned with the core values. That's how you get to be a key issue, all right? But there's going to be secondary issues. There are going to be issues that we want to deal with that maybe aren't as important, but they fit this criteria. They're what we call the low-hanging fruit because they can be addressed quickly and inexpensively. They add value to either a significant portion of the membership or they eliminate some visible annoyance to you guys. It's like, oh, when are we going to get this done? Well, it maybe isn't the most important thing in the world, but it would provide some relief and some appreciation from the members of getting those things done. So we're going to have those, primary heavyweight issues that we're going to focus on and some secondary issues. What do we do with those? All right. So in those remaining 2 days, the team is going to wade through one at a time each of these issues. And they're going to define the issue. They're going to write down what is the issue? What are we dealing with here? And then they're going to, as a group, brainstorm possible solutions. I can tell you that to solve any or address any particular issue, sometimes there's 20 different approaches. The group will come to a consensus on what the approach is going to be to take for that issue. So they'll choose a final solution, and then we're going to start assigning responsibilities. This is where strategic planning usually breaks down. Okay? Oh yeah, we're maybe don't even have a solution. We just got an issue, okay, and we're going to have to deal with it. If we have a solution, who's going to? So we're going to work on who's going to do it. When is it going to get done? And milestones along the way. Not, oh, it has to be done by 2027. Well, how about between now and then? What are all the things that we have to do along the way? What are those specific tasks that have to be accomplished? We're going to assign an action plan champion to every action plan, the person probably most qualified to take that forward. And we're going to document the tasks to be completed. We'll have a time schedule with milestones. We're going to do this 3 months from now, 2 months after that, this, blah, blah, blah. We're done at this date. And magically, which almost never happens, we're going to estimate a budget, order of magnitude. We have enough firepower in this in this group that they can come up with a number it's going to be close. Is it going to be exactly the number? Probably not. It's going to be really close. Between the board members, all of the SMTs, the committee members, the general manager, we've got enough expertise to get close on the number. So imagine that we're sitting in the room doing this one at a time. We stay on it until we get each one done, move on to the next one. We let them go home at midnight or whatever it takes. I'd ask you to hold, because I think we'll probably get to your answers, but we'll have unlimited whatever time you want afterwards. Okay. All right, so this is what happens to come up with these action plans. You notice, what is the term? Action plan. We're going to take action. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're not going to pontificate. We're not going to project. We're not going to research. We're going to do something. All right, so what are the last two steps? I'm going to create a written planning report, but it's not anything like you've seen in the past. It's just going to be a collection of the action plans. Plan 1, Plan 2, Plan... Well, first of all, it'll be kind of a review of this. There'll be a process overview and the list of the core values. We'll list all of the issues. What were the 100 issues that were up there? You know, you guys see what all those issues are. What were the ones that we said were key issues and secondary issues? What are all of the strategic action plans? And we'll publish that to you all when we've got that done. And that happens really very shortly after this workshop. I mean, we come out of the workshop with done action plan, ready to go. These guys are ready to go take action. All right. We're also going to formulate a capital expenditures plan. It's a separate activity after the strategic action plans are done. It's produced by the board officers, the general manager, and the CFO to put some dollars on this. We're going to have some general dollars, but we got to get more specific. We may have to get some bids. We may have to talk to contractors if it involves that kind of thing. And these two reports get published simultaneously to the members. So you guys get this report, which is everything that happened and what all the issues are in the action plans, and what it's going to cost. And critically, how are we going to pay for this? What's the impact on assessments? What's the, if any, the impact on fees? Where's this money going to come? We're going to borrow money? What is the deal here? So that you know, for the next 10 years, what the financial situation is. Okay, not guess, oh yeah, we got to spend this money, we'll come find the money somewhere. No, you will have the information as to how this is going to go. Okay, then some of you are thinking, oh, this sounds great. How do we know this is really going to happen? Like, you know, this guy's got good ideas, but how do we know anything's going to happen? First of all, you're going to have the champion of each of the action plans reporting to the board on a monthly basis. Where are we at? Okay? And we're going to provide the resources necessary to make this happen, make some changes in the plans if necessary. And as action plans are completed, remember we had that list of 100 things, and we picked the top 11. Which one was 12? When does that move onto the list? And is it still 12, or did something else move on? Or did something happen differently? So we're constantly looking at those issues, and as action plans are completed, we then add more items and more action plans. And then we follow up with the members to see how we're doing with a survey. Are you happy with the way this is going? Do you have input on what's going on here? You have input in another way, because at every board meeting, there's going to be a brief report on every action plan. So once we get started here, you come to a board meeting and it will be, okay, we got 11 action plans. Now some of them might be nothing new since last time, this is where we're at. Could be, this is our next step. We accomplished this, we're on to this step. Keeping the community appraised of where we're at on each of these action plans. Something that you don't see in normal strategic, or let's not say normal, traditional strategic planning. You do a report and it's kind of over. Here you're going to be constantly reminded, and the board will constantly be held to remind you as to where we are on these. And also we're going to emphasize and encourage what we call strategic thinking. Every day, every hour, decisions are being made here that are strategic. at all different levels, at the board level, at the management level, at the supervisory level, at the individual employee level. People are making decisions. We have hundreds of people making hundreds of decisions all the time. We want to encourage them to always be checking against the action plans and the core values. When you make that decision, is it in sync with what we're really trying to accomplish here? Or is it off in the weeds somewhere and we really should rethink that? We'll also have an annual one-day planning team workshop to regroup and focus. I think that's less important than these status reports. And the board is committed. They've had this presentation. This is not new to them. They've committed to following this process, and so you'll be seeing this happening. Okay, where are we right now? The planning team members have been asked to put together a list, if they have something, that they'd like to include in the process and bring to the workshop. We already have lots of information, and I'm going to put together that big list, but we want the members of the planning team to also bring whatever, just make sure we don't miss anything. The workshop's going to be 10 through 12, and then we'll issue the reports, this planning report, the capital expenditure report, and we'll have a meeting where you guys will get all of that. You have a chance to review it, read it, discuss it, and then we'll have a meeting here where you can come and ask all the questions you want and give feedback. Of course, you'll be able to do that at every board meeting because we'll be reviewing all the action plans. But before we get started on that, you're invited to come. So the inclusion of members is a major factor in this process. And it's the factor that made it really popular and effective with our clients because they had been down the road of the big, thick report that stays on the shelf and gathers dust, and they wanted to get some action. So that's a big part of it. Last slide is, what does this thing do? It builds consensus, so we're all on the same page. It identifies and prioritizes key issues. We're going to establish the goals and strategies that drive capital planning. Nice to have issues. How are we going to pay for it? We focus on action and results, and we perpetuate the vision and mission of the community. Questions? Yes, sir. Here.
Okay. We have a 2024 strategic plan. We also have a reserve study. And then we have a 2021 master sewer plan. So kind of understanding and relating all these plans to me is how do we look at all these different plans and then understand exactly where we're going? I don't know if I've worded this very well.
I think that's a great question. Well, first of all, let's remember we're talking strategy here, okay? So the reserve study is not strategy. The reserve study is we got maintenance we've got to do. We've got to have money for that. Here's the time frame that needs to be done. So that's a baseline. That doesn't change. We're not going to redo the reserve study. The sewer plan is similar to that. It's what do we need to do to keep our system running properly, repaired, top-notch, et cetera, et cetera. Most of those things are not strategic. They're operational, and those will stay in place. So the baseline, when we talk about expenses, the baseline is all that stuff. That has to be paid for before we do anything else. And the board, has talked about that before, that the priority is to maintain the community at a high level of quality and do all, that's like the bottom line before we do anything else. So we're not going to relitigate that. We're not going to get back into those plans. They're done and they're the baseline. What we're talking about is on top of that, what are we doing? Mostly what you'll find is it'll be related to maybe amenity improvement, deciding on certain services that might be available that aren't available now, that kind of thing. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's not like we're starting over with all that. That's the baseline. We have to build on top of that. We're not going to, we're going to take the money from the reserve study and put it over here. No, that's that's sacred money that gets spent on that stuff, and we build on top of that. Did you have a follow-up?
Okay. Part of the question is we come out with all these studies and we publish them, which is fine. But then for the average community club member to understand them, when we talk to people about the reserve study or the sewer plan, people have all these different concepts of what it is. And so there's more, and people have said this, there's more rumors that are untrue going around. So it would be nice to get some more, like Jason mentioned about having YouTube videos or Zoom meetings, so that after it's done, you have to bring it down to a level for most of the members to understand, because like the reserve study, I'm still working on it, but there's a lot of things that are not obvious to me, and the same with some of the strategic plans. So I'm trying to get just better communication.
And communication is always one of the action plans. Every project that we've done with any community, member communication is one of the action plans. Not only how are we going to communicate what we're doing in strategic planning, but how do we communicate in general? And I know that the board's already working on that, and management, to improve and expand on the communication. And you're right. You know, you can publish the reserve study, and then people are like, what the heck? What is this? And how? Yeah, how do we distill that down? So I think, I'm not speaking for the team, they have not, I can almost guarantee you that one of the action plans is going to be better communication to the community. And how, and not, you know, it's one that, we need to have better communication. Yeah, okay, what does that mean? What are we going to do? What's the action? What's going to be different? How are these folks going to understand whatever it is that they need to understand? So we move past these goals. We need better communication. We need more transparent, whatever that all that is, to actual action. But I'm not going to speak for these guys, but I can tell you every one of these we've done, member community communication ends up being an action plan. So I hope that answers your question. Anybody else have a, yes, sir?
Thanks, Bill. This is very informative. As you were going through, I jotted down a few questions. So on one of the slides, you mentioned who was going to be a part of this group coming together. And I think you mentioned on there 2 members from the strategic planning team were going to be a part of this. So what's happening with the rest of the team as this is going through? How does that quote-unquote committee exist?
Well, they do exist. They have other priorities that they're working on. We're going to coordinate with them. They're not part, I mean, 2 members are part of this. The entire committee has other things they're working on. I haven't talked to them about what their agenda is for the next, you know, we're talking about the next few days here. So whatever they're working on, they'll continue. I don't know if you guys want to speak to that. Scott?
To get the input, the 2 members are bringing the strategic planning committee as a whole's input into the process. So when you do these types of exercises, you don't want 30 people in the room, right? You want a smaller group that are representing some of the thoughts and ideas. So as you talk about action items, strategic planning committee itself will be a big part of the oversight to ensure that accountability for execution as this roadmap or these items come out of here. So the result of what we come is part of the strategic planning process and part of the strategic planning committee's role to provide that oversight.
And specifically, typically when we're doing these projects, there is a strategic planning committee made up of members. A lot of times they end up doing research. So we may hit a snag where we think we've got the information and all of a sudden, wait a minute, you know, we need to dig into this a little bit further. Great, we got a committee that can do that. Let's not have the board get sidetracked with that. So as a research arm, as an expertise arm, they'll still be involved. They have a hit list of things that they're working on. They'll continue to work. But we're selecting 2 members to be on this in this 3-day session. We can't have the whole group there. And as Scott said, I think that they can help with the process.
I only get 10. I don't have that many, but thank you. So if a month from now you were to go through this presentation again, you'd be able to put names next to all this stuff. So less than a month. Yeah. So in other words, you could do that is the end product. And
yes, the action plans, as I described, are going to have who's responsible? That could be 3 or 4 people for a particular action plan. It could be one person, it depends. It could be, certainly in many cases, the responsible parties are not on the planning team. It could be a department within, someone in a department head that's, or they assign that to an assistant supervisor, whatever. So it isn't like the planning team is going to do everything going forward, but you will know what's going to happen, what are the milestone time, when's it going to happen, each step of the way, who's going to, and different people could be responsible for different milestones. What's it going to cost? How are we going to pay for it? What's the impact on our assessments and our financial situation? All of that for each plan. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, and that tells me what I was looking for, which is it's broader than just those members. Those members may be assigned, I'll call it a task, for lack of a better term, for me. They'll be assigned a task, but they're free to draw in the resources to accomplish that.
Particularly, we're going to be assigned a lot of things. All the stuff that you love to do. All right, keep going.
Okay. The last one is the board's already assigned, and guys, forgive me, ladies, forgive me that I don't recall, but it seems to me, for example, the board assigned to the strategic planning committee stables and the property out there or something, as I'm weekly trying to remember. It would seem to me that if you've assigned them some things, that's going to bubble up to the top 10 or 11, correct?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, there's a lot of stuff in process. It's already going on. I mean, we have key issues already in the hopper, okay? We're talking about stuff that's not already in the hopper. Yeah, Druid is not going to be on the list. It's underway, okay? The performance center and all the golf stuff and all that. Not all these things that are already budgeted, already planned, already going to happen. That's not what we're. Now, it's possible that the timing of certain things might be adjusted based on what comes up in this process. So certainly Druid is going to go. It's off and running. But if we have something in the capital budget for 5 years from now and it's deemed to not be as important as some other things, that could change. I can't say how that's going to go because we haven't had, but anything that's in process is going to continue. And I would doubt that anything that is on the existing capital improvements list would come off that list. The only thing I could see happening there is maybe a timing or priority or something like that. So all of those things will continue. Yes, sir. You guys should be sitting together.
What? I don't want to sit next to him. Will you be getting into the financial aspects, whether we raise our POA fees, whether we take out more loans, whether we raise the amenity fees and stuff like that? Is that going to be part of your responsibility?
Absolutely. Otherwise, we're just like dollar signs floating around. We have to know how this is going to get paid for. So what we're looking at is the sources of revenue. We've got fees, we have assets, we have potential for borrowing and leverage. All of that would be considered. You can't do a credible job of strategic planning if you ignore the dollars. Then it's just pie in the sky. Oh, that'd be nice to do that. You know, well, are we going to do it? How are we going to pay for it? What is the point of talking about this if we don't have the money or we're not going to make the money available? And I think it's incumbent on all of us to know what that is. We're all owners here. This is what we are, and it's our money. So, yes, that would be part of it. Yes, ma'am.
So during each step of the way, are you going to be asking for the members to give an input about what's happening, or is there going to be some kind of a session where we can send an email maybe to give an opinion on something that's going on through the committee? And I also have to say that I have not looked at a Fairfield Glade email, and I can't tell you how long because I've been so disillusioned. I don't even know what my password is anymore. So, I mean, I can't even tell you where I go to find out what it is.
Okay, so after the meeting, I'll help. I'll help you with that. But that's a great question. So how are you going to know what's going on? Well, first of all, when the reports are issued initially, we're going to have a meeting of the community to come and ask questions, okay? You can always, and I'm sure that what will bubble up out of this is a communication strategy, not just for this, but generally with the community. Keep in mind that at every board meeting, there's going to be a report on the status of every action plan. Well, you have the opportunity to say, hey, I don't agree with that, or I thought you were going to do this, and now the date's changed, and you said it was X dollars, now it's Y dollars. So the point of those reports is to inform you and also get some reaction. Are we good here? Are we delivering on what we said we were going to do or not? So you have that first big blast meeting where here's all the action, you've gotten the action plans, you've gotten the budget, you've gotten all that, come talk about that, ask all the questions you want. And then monthly, you're at now. As far as your email, you'll need some help from your husband there to get that going. I would suggest that you do that because we will be, not we, but the team will be sending out information on that. I think that one of the hallmarks of fast-track strategic planning is informing the members. This is one of the major missing elements, and one of the major driving forces of inventing this service was that this was what was missing in the industry of what was being offered to communities. So you will see a lot of communication on that. Does that answer your question? Other question? Yes, sir. Back. Go ahead.
So you've got a volunteer board and volunteer staff.
Yeah, let's give you the mic so the people on the mic.
Okay, so I'm just, you know, you've got a volunteer board and you're volunteering, and so I guess my question is, in your experience, is there a sweet spot in the number of initiatives that you try and land on so that they get executed?
That's a great question. The question is there a sweet spot on the number of initiatives? It's usually 8 to 10. I've had engagements where it was as few as 6. I've had engagements where it was 20. 20 was a huge Ocean Reef you saw on the list there. Ocean Reef is a $150 million operation, so it's 8 times larger than Fairfield Glade. They had a lot of stuff going on. Usually it's 8, 10, 12 initiatives, and then some secondary. However, keep in mind that as you knock off initiatives and issues, you add more. This is a continuous, this doesn't stop. The idea, and if you talk to these communities, they'll say, oh yeah, we're still executing on it. Well, when did you do that? In 2010? This is 2025, and they're still, because they've added, the process lives on. You continue to add issues. You continue to add initiatives that that have either come up new that nobody knew about, or were on the list that didn't get dealt with initially. So it keeps going. But usually it's in that 8 to 10 range. And these are significant issues. There's a lot of stuff. I can tell you what happens in this. There's a ton of stuff that just goes to the GM to take care of. Not strategic, but something that's low-hanging fruit that we can knock out and say, hey, Bill Ward, by the way, is very capable of handling this. You know, can you guys take care of this? So there'll be a whole bunch of things that it really, you know, it's the things that come up on the list, easily handled. Let's just get it on the management to-do list, and they'll knock it out. So we're talking about major issues here, major strategic issues, 8 to 10, but a whole bunch of smaller things that get knocked out. Did you have a follow-up, or are you good? Here.
No, it's a lot of work.
Okay. Yes, it is. Yes, ma'am. Here you go.
I'm not sure how I want to word this, but I came because I'm interested to see, are we going to have any say-so in what our amenity fees go up to? There's a lot of people living here on just a very, very, very fixed income, and if it keeps going up, I mean, is there going to be a limit to how much the amenity fees are going to be?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know that there's a limit. What you will know is you will know what the plan is, and you will know how it's going to get paid for. And I don't think that we need to, what I don't want to do, and a lot of our clients are like, oh man, this guy, our dues are going through the roof. That's the first thing they think. That's it. Dues are going up. In most cases, the dues didn't go up any more than they normally would. What happens is, you know, we call it assessment here. Typically in the industry, it's called dues. Usually what happens is things get juggled around in the existing budget. There's great sensitivity. I've lived here long enough to understand the sensitivity of the board to raising assessments. We understand that. We understand that folks are, some portion of our membership here is stretched on all expenses. So I don't want you to get the feeling like, oh man, costs are going up. They may, but you'll know well in advance. This is not going to be, oh, we did this strategic plan and we're telling you, you're going to see all the action plans. You're going to see how these paid for, and you're going to have a chance to have your input on that. Just like everything else the board does. Capital plan, they present that to you and you guys have feedback on it. But I don't want to have you feel like, here comes the big increase. That we haven't normally seen that. Is that, do you have a follow-up? Other questions? All right, who wants to volunteer to start carrying out action plans? You may be called upon. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Any other comments, questions, or anything before we get ourselves out of the workshop? All right, I need a motion.
So moved.
The motion is to close the workshop. So that's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank all of you for coming, and I appreciate you being here.